Hello, Catskill High students. This is Mr. Irvis. I'm coming to you from Quickwater Studios. We are working on our YouTube version of April 20th, Unit 4, so lessons 1 through 4. So stick with me. Our first question here is about a pie crust recipe that calls for 2 cups of butter for every 3 cups of flour used. And Elliot is making enough crust and she wants to use up all 8 cups of flour. Well, if that's the case, we're going to use our starting fact that 2 cups of butter have to be used for every 3 cups of flour. Alright, so you're just going to start setting up a proportion and you're going to say 2 cups of butter for 3 cups of flour. I'm not going to put the labels in there, it gets a little messy, but this is butter, this is flour. And since this is a proportion, I'm going to use equals. And our second scenario is Elliot. She's trying to make a pie crust and use all 8 cups of flour. So that means if this fraction was butter over flour, this is going to be butter over flour. She wants to use 8 cups. Well, how much butter should you use? Well, I don't know. We'll put an X. And once you have a proportion, that's when you get back down to cross multiplying. And you say 3 times X should be equal to 2 times 8, which is 16. Solve that. Divide by 3, and it's not going to divide nice, of course. It's going to be some decimal, but they have all fractions over here. But 3 does go into 16 5 times. A leftover of 1, and the denominator is still 3. So 5 1/3 cups of butter should be used. Now I'm going with choice 4, sticking with that. So number 1, all set. Moving on to number 2. Alright, so this is actually a pretty tough question. We have 5,280 feet in a mile, that's a fact. 3,600 seconds an hour, that's another fact. Then we have to think about a speed of 26 feet per second and try to figure out which one of these is closest to matching that. Now 26 feet per second is where you want to begin. So you're going to say 26 and we'll put feet and we'll write it like this, like over 1 second. So that's another way of saying 20 feet. It's 26 feet per second. All right, now I'm not interested in being in feet, so I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to use the fact that they gave us. They said that 1 mile is the same as 5,280 feet. And I choose to write it like that because I can diagonally cancel feet with feet. So that's what I'm going to use. Next, I'm going to get rid of seconds. I have no interest in being seconds, so I'm using the fact that 3,600 seconds in an hour. So I'm going to make sure I write the 3,600 seconds on top and the 1 hour on bottom because these seconds will cancel with those seconds. And let's see what's left. Alright, we said that feet would cancel with feet. Great. Diagonally, these seconds can cancel with those seconds. And then you basically have 26 times 1 times 3,600, which, let me do that in my head, 93,600. Alright, I'm lying. I didn't do that in my head. On bottom, we have 1 times 5,280 times 1, which is just still 5,280, and the label is H for hours. Alright, if you type this in a calculator, you'll get this divided by this, happens to be equal to 17.7272, and I believe it just repeats. So which one is the closest? If you round it off, 18 miles an hour, choice 2. All right, so that's a pretty tough question. There's one of those on your student work, make sure you take a peek at it. All right, so now we're getting down to graphing. And we're talking about graphing lines. You guys should all have this equation, y equals mx plus b, in your head, where m is your slope and your b is your y-intercept, where you cross the y-axis. So this particular line they're showing us has a positive y-intercept right here, hits the y-axis in the positive value, and the slope is negative because it's going down. So I'm looking for something that's negative in front of x and a positive y-intercept. And it looks like it's right there in that very first option. So multiple choice, oops, sorry, I got that. Multiple choice number 1 is what I would like to go with. Now, if you check all these other ones, they don't make sense. They have positive, positive, they have a negative here and a negative here. None of this stuff makes sense. All right, let's finish up on the bottom of the page. For a linear function, well, we just discussed slope. So we have our function mx plus b. Therefore, the item that's stuck to the x should be the slope. And the number there should be the y-intercept. So we're looking for something that says that the slope is -3. The y-intercept is 2, and you can see the multiple choices there. Now before I turn the page, I want you to notice there's a trick here. Number 4 is brutally close, -3, and they put the x on it. There is never a variable on your slope, guys. It's just a number. Rise over run. All right, let's turn this over. The desk is a little bit of a mess here today, sorry. All right, check out number 5. We got a can of Pringles. Contains 240 chips and advertises that the entire can has a total of 1,920 calories. So this is what I'm talking about. 1,920 calories in the total can, which contains 240 chips. All right, well, I don't care. You know, you can see they want to calculate the unit rate or the number of calories in a single chip. So I don't want this to say 240 chips. I want it to say 1 chip. So I'm just going to use old-fashioned reducing, which divide by 240 here, divide by 240 here, and you will turn this denominator into 1 chip, which is what we were hoping for. That divides nicely, I believe. That is going to be 8, and the units is still calories. So 8 calories per 1 chip. So check it out over here. We got 8 calories per chip. Choice 4. And that's it. Enjoy those chips. And then we go down to number 6. Which of the following could be a true statement about a linear equation? Well, check this right here. That's an exponential equation, ab to the x. Hopefully you notice that's just a trick. It will always have a maximum or minimum value. Well, lines, I think this one right here is referring to the parabolas. So that right there is not a linear function. The average rate of change is always equal to the slope. That right there sounds like something that we did. Y equal mx plus b. If it's a line, the slope and the average rate of change are definitely always going to be equal to each other. So these things are the same. So we're going to go with choice number 3. And you can see number 4 is just, that's a parabola right there. It's a quadratic function. So nothing there. All right, let's finish up number 7. And it says rearrange these, and you can see I already have a box around. They want y equals mx plus b format and to identify the slope and y-intercept. So that means I want to have y by itself. So our goal is to get this y right here alone. Let's see. So that means you're going to add the 2x to both sides. So plus 2x plus 2x. Alright, so now you have 3y equals, and I'm going to put the 2x first, 2x plus 50. And then I'm going to try and get the y alone. I'm going to reverse this multiplication and divide all terms by 3. So y equals, and a fraction in front of x is actually my favorite, 2 over 3x plus 5. So that means our slope is 2/3 in front of the x, and our y-intercept is 5. That's it. Oh, I'm off screen. Sorry, guys. And we're going over here to the B, or letter B. Same thing. Focus on the y, guys. Make moves so that that can be alone. So reverse this minus 5 or negative 5x with a plus 5x on both sides, leaving you with 4y equals, and I'm going to put this first, even though I don't have to, plus 5x minus 8. And we're going to reverse this, divide by 4. Divide by 4 on all pieces, so y can be alone. Y is equal to 5 over 4x minus 2. Okay, again, I like the thing in front of the x to be a fraction. That's fine, so that means I know how much to rise and run. So my slope is 5/4. My y-intercept is negative 2. Okay, and let's finish our last couple on the page. Alright, letter C just looks different. You still have the same job to solve for y. If you don't like the way it's written, some kids like to just switch it around and say, you know what, it's weird, let's put the y over here. That's allowed. I think maybe right-handed people like it that way. And I'll divide by 3. So now the y is by itself. Now what's in front of this x? Invisible 1. That way you can still have a fraction, 1/3 x, and do the division, minus 2. So now you're in y equals mx plus b, so that means your slope is 1/3, and your y-intercept is negative 2. And that's it. And one more, letter D. Here's the y. Let's make sure we're getting that y by itself. So I'm going to take this minus 3x and add it to the other side. Okay, so no longer there. I still have y equals, well, 0 added to 3x. If you want to put the 0, it's okay. It's a little weird, but you're allowed to. You don't have to. Some kids will just write y equals 3x. Actually, most kids. And leave it like that. So that means your slope is stuck to your x is 3. Or if you wish to put a 1 under it because you like to see the rise and the run, that's fine. And when I say what's the y-intercept, well, you would have to say, well, that's going to be 0. So that's it. That's a quick review of how to solve for y, or get it in y equals mx plus b form. Your student work, make sure it says student work at the top, and you're doing the work for 420. Make sure that you take a pic of that and send that to your teachers or upload it to Google Classroom. And that's all I have for you guys today. All right, thanks.